Uh, so last week we had every day satsang, all 7 days a week because of camp. Now after 3 days of break, 2 days of break, we are meeting.
देवी महाकाली भवानी, देवी महाकाली भवानी, माय भवानी सुखदायिनी, माय भवानी सुखदायिनी, देवी महाकाली भवानी, देवी महाकाली भवानी, व्याघ्रावर बैसोनी आली, व्याघ्रावर बैसोनी आली, महिषासुरमर्दिनी भवानी, महिषासुरमर्दिनी भवानी, देवी महाकाली भवानी, माय भवानी सुखदायिनी, देवी महाकाली भवानी, व्याघ्रावर बैसोनी
So volume is too less. Previous was good.
देवी महाकाली भवानी,
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः, भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः, स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवांशस्तनूभिः, व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः, स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः, स्वस्ति स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकन्नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तन्नमामि। यस्यान्तर्नादिमध्यं न हि करचरणं नामगोत्रं न सूत्रं नो जातिर्नैव वर्णं न भवति पुरुषो नो नपुंसो न च स्त्री नाकारो निर्विकारो न जननमरणं नास्ति पुण्यं न पापं नो तत्त्वमेकं सहजसमरसं सद्गुरुं तन्नमामि। चिन्मयो नाम रूपस्य आनन्दो वै स्वभावतः वेदगीतासमुद्धरता ज्ञानयज्ञव्रते स्थितः चिन्मयं जीवनं यस्य स्मरणं यस्य चेतना ज्ञानदानं धृतिर्यस्य तस्य पादौ भजाम्यहम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Welcome you all with salutation to Meera Satsang, where we are discussing Mundaka Upanishad. We will now chant the complete first section of third chapter, having 10 mantras. द्वौ सुपर्णा सयुजा सखाया समानं वृक्षं बरिशश्वजाते तयोरन्यः पिप्पलं स्वाद्वत्ति अनश्नन्नन्यो अभिचाकशीति समाने वृक्षे पुरुषो निमग्नः अनीशया शोचति मुह्यमानः युष्टं यदा पश्यत्यन्यमीशम् अस्य महिमानमिति वीतशोकः यदा पश्यते रुक्मवर्णं कर्तारमेशं पुरुषं ब्रह्मयोनिं तदा विद्वान् पुण्यपापे विधूय निरञ्जनः परमं साम्यमुपैति प्राणो ह्येष यः सर्वभूतैर्विभाति विजानन् विद्वान् भवते नातिवादी आत्मक्रीड आत्मरतिः क्रियावान् एष ब्रह्मविदां वरिष्ठः सत्येन लभ्यस्तपसा येष आत्मा सम्यक् ज्ञानेन ब्रह्मचर्येण नित्यम् अन्तःशरीरे ज्योतिर्मयो हि शुभ्रः यं पश्यन्ति यतयः क्षीणदोषाः सत्यमेव जयते नानृतम् सत्येन पन्था विततो देवयानः येनाक्रमन्त्रिषयो व्याप्तकामाः यत्र तत्सत्यस्य परमं निदानं बृहच्च दिव्यमचिन्त्यरूपम् सूक्ष्माच्च तत्सूक्ष्मतरं विभाति दूरात् सुदूरे तदिहान्तिके च पश्यत्स्विहैव निहितं गुहायां न चक्षुषा गृह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वः ततस्तुतं पश्यते निष्कलं ध्यायमानः एषोऽनुरात्मा चेतसा वेदितव्यः यस्मिन् प्राणः पञ्चधा संविवेश प्राणैश्चित्तं सर्वमूतं प्रजानां यस्मिन् विशुद्धे विभवत्येष आत्मा यं यं लोकं मनसा संविभाति विशुद्धसत्त्वः कामयते यांश्च कामान् तं लोकं जयते तांश्च कामान् तस्मादात्मज्ञं यर्चयेत् भूतिकामः इति मुण्डकोपनिषदि तृतीयमुण्डके प्रथमः खण्डः। Yam Lokam is here translated as a sphere. But as we have already seen, discussed and confirmed, Lokam is a field of experience. There are 7 upper lokas and 7 lower lokas. We are considering the 7 lokas. In 7 lokas, there are first 3 lokas, what we call it as Vairuti in Gayatri Mantra, Bhurloka, Bhuvarloka and Swarloka. So these are the 3 perishable, continuously created and destroyed lokas, where normally the egoistic individual goes through experiences from the Bhurloka, then through Bhuvarloka to Swarloka, and then comes back. When he enjoys the merits in Swarloka or Swargaloka, then he comes back. Shine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. So this is usually the cyclic experience of birth and death, and going through first 3 lokas is a normal thing for all ignorant, egoistic individuals. But the spiritual seeker, with great efforts, he manages to, he is able to transcend this Swarloka and goes to Maharloka, where he gets the link to connect himself to the higher 3 lokas, which are Janoloka, Tapoloka and Satyaloka. These are the 3 higher lokas which are eternal, imperishable lokas. So they can be equated to, or as an equivalent to, Janoloka as Ananda, Tapoloka as Chit, and Satyaloka as Sat. So Satchidananda is the characteristic indication of the ultimate truth, is represented when Jiva goes through these fields of experiences, Janoloka, Tapoloka. So starting with this, Janoloka is the first indication of our success in meditation, that it ends in the bliss, a most cheerful disposition of our mind. This is the first indication of success in our meditation. So these 7 lokas, out of which here it is said, Yam Yam lokam manasa samvibhati. So whatever loka one desires, now who desires? Ambivadi. This man of self-perfection who has been described so far, and immediately we can find in the last mantra, Eshonuratma Chetasa Veditavyaha. This is the last mantra where it says that this self is to be realized by a mind which is extremely pure. Chetas is the term used for that. Chetas is that mind which is Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva. It's not just Sattva prompted mind, where the Sattva dominates over the other two gunas, but it is Sattvic mind, and especially the mind where all negativities of the mind are eradicated. So that is the Sattvic state called here as Vishuddha Sattva. So the self is realized by the mind that is extremely pure, free from negativity. We have seen this, that a yogi can also experience this state of realization with great efforts, but since the negativities of his mind, like ignorance, self-ignorance, are not eradicated by yoga, the only means for eradicating ignorance, destroying the ignorance, is knowledge. And therefore, one who has the knowledge only will be able to destroy the ignorance, because knowledge is the only antidote for ignorance, not actions. For any amount of action will not destroy the knowledge. Yoga gives you, enables you to bring the mind to simulate the condition, to the similar condition wherein you can have a glimpse of that reality, and thereby you get the vision of reality. So this, but then his ignorance is not gone. So all negativities or the vasanas are not destroyed in case of yogi. Therefore, he has to practice it and gain the vision, clear vision. But the actual self-realization takes place only when the ignorance is destroyed by the knowledge, first level, and when it is contemplated upon in depth, then that realization is in the form of experience. The self-experience is gained by the mind, which is here termed in the last mantra as Chetas. So Chetas is a Vishuddha Sattva mind, extremely pure, free from negativities. So only this mind is able to receive the truth. The mind has to be the receptacle of truth. And since the truth is itself perfect, it is the one without a second. Therefore, to receive that truth in a medium, that must be fit to receive. Therefore, that mind, which is extremely pure, can receive this. So here, the loka, tam tam yam yam lokam. So whatever loka, the field of experience, is desired by the one who is described so far as a man of perfection. If he desires, or anyone else desires, in case anyone else desires a particular loka, whether it is Swarga loka, usually we have these lokas between these first three lokas. There is in between Pitru loka or Soma loka or Chandra loka, etc. Then Indra loka, and there are various fields of experience. These are the field of experiences that one goes through and therefore that loka word, a technical term, is used. So here in case, even the man of realization who has kept aside certain desires for this spiritual practice and is totally devoted to that, after having reached the self experience, as such, there are no desires for him. He does not wish anything. It is in fact free from desire. A presence of desire shows a sense of wanting. I want. That is the indicative of desire. And when I want, it shows simultaneously the sense of lacking. I don't have this. I wish I should have this. So a sense of lacking gives rise to a sense of wanting, and it is this sense of wanting that keeps the fellow continuously to the wheel of birth and death. Because in the process, over the period, he gathers more desires. The system that is provided for this BMI complex, body, mind, intellect complex, is to exhaust the existing desires. We have brought along with our prarabdha certain desires which are to be exhausted. The system is meant for that. Instead of exhausting the existing desires, the ignorant fellow, not knowing this system, en route or in the bargain, he gathers few more desires. So he desires the desire. When any desire comes in his mind as an expression of his unmanifest vasanas, then he said, yes, this is what I wanted. I was thinking why I was disturbed for last few days. Now I got it. This is the one I wanted. So he reinforces and confirms and adds to the existing desire. So the existing desire goes its own way, goes for the good, but the new desire is registered, and that keeps the whole thing repeating. So due to ignorance, there are desires, and desires prompts us to action to fulfill them. And desire prompted actions mark back another or few more desires. So thus the cycle goes on. Now the one who has reached that sense of the level of self-perfection, one who has realized his true being, for that person, he is free from desires. In Gita, second chapter, Shita Prajna portion, the first words of Shita Prajna Lakshana, the characteristic of a man of realizers, Prajahadi yada kaman, sarvan partha manogatan, sarvan manogatan kaman yada prajahati. Then the reason being, Atmanyevatmana tushtaha, is reveling in the self, by the self, of the self, and therefore he simply rejects all the desires in the mind. Manogatan kaman prajahati. He gives up all this as useless for him. So this is the first indication that he does not keep any desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he understands that the desiring is redundant, as he has realized himself to be a complete being. He has a fullness with himself and he lacks nothing. When you lack something, then you want something to fulfill. He lacks nothing. He is with fullness and completeness of his being, and therefore there is no need for any desires. In case there are any desires in the mind, either he will reject it as it is indicated. That is a characteristic of a man of perfection. But if he wants to fulfill that also, it's a matter of only wishing, and it happens. There are no efforts involved at all. And here, what we have been discussing last time, the secret of success is with our mind. to the extent the mind is integrated. Human mind has two aspects. One is the emotional aspect and other is the rational aspect. When these two aspects are integrated, then we can say the mind is integrated. And such an integrated mind, when develops a sense of single pointedness, a sense of concentration, then integrated and concentrated mind, when directed to the discovery of the self, then he gets it. So now that mind becomes the most effective instrument to get anything he wants. He has reached the portals where he doesn't want anything. But in case, instead of that Sita Prajna throwing off or rejecting or removing all the desires in the mind, Prajahadi yada kaman. Instead of that, suppose if he wants to fulfill, he doesn't have to undertake any action. For the ignorant, to fulfill a desire, it is not enough that he knows the desire. He needs to fulfill it through action. Then the desire is fulfilled. By merely a wishful thinking, you won't get anything. Wish has to be accompanied by appropriate and adequate self-efforts in a right direction. So when that happens, then perhaps you may get the desire fulfilled. No guarantee, because there are other factors involved in the fulfillment, external factors over which you have no control. Therefore, this is the program of desire fulfillment. It is simply exhausting program. We exhaust all our energies, and in the bargain, very seldom we get our desire fulfilled. Invariably, the desires remain as unfulfilled. Now here, the man of realization has got such an effective tool called the Vishuddha Sattva mind, a purely, extremely pure mind, as a very effective tool. He can use it for any balanced desires in his mind for himself. Just he has to concentrate on that, and the desire will get fulfilled. He doesn't need to put forth any effort. This is a great thing. And usually he doesn't want it, but usually it is others who want it. What they want, they will get it, provided they honor this man of self-realization. So this is indicated in this, that the mantras, you can say the main theme is, if you honor the man of self-realization, then one who is desirous of prosperity, he will get that. Now this we need to understand. In the light of the discussions that we have so far, we need to understand. So for that we have seen in the first paragraph, as the mind so the man is the most important principle about the human being, and how the mind can be tamed and how the mind can be trained, how the mind can be upgraded for its quality to be sattvic. All these are different exercises, and one who has reached to the level of extremely sattvic mind, that mind is the one which dictates whatever it wishes, it happens. That's the power of the instrument. The same mind, when upgraded to that level, then it becomes a powerful tool, and whatever it wishes, it gets it. Yo yadichasi tatsya tat, Kathopanishad promises. Once you become the man of self-realization, whatever you want, it becomes yours. You don't have to even do anything for that. Yo yadichasi tasya tat. So like this, even Zoze Vanchilato Te Laho, when prayer is made, it is not imaginary. It is, in fact, about the truth about this effective tool, which is our extremely pure mind. So now this mind has been useful for the self-realization. If this is the highest thing that man can achieve, the highest achievement of man is self-realization. And the tool with which he has got this highest goal or his last lap in the evolution, that tool is very effective tool. If it can get the highest level of achievement, why not get the material desires fulfilled? It is nothing for that mind to gain that. Just a wish for that. Now, the man of realization doesn't wish anything for himself. He is all available to bless the mankind, provided the people are available for that. So, this is something that we have to find out in this following paragraphs. We have not covered all the portions. So the first paragraph we have thoroughly discussed about the mind and its potentials, that whatever you aspire for, the mind is capable of getting that, provided you tune the mind to that level, to that grade. So this we have discussed now. In the second paragraph, we have seen the importance of such a mind, the important characteristics of such a mind is two important words, the integration and concentration. With these two words, realize the mind becomes the most effective tool to get anything. Now when you say, yo yadichasi tatsya, whatever one desires, it becomes his. Or Jose Vanchila. Now people might have a big list of desires. It is not that way that whatever you want, you get it. Not that way. There are possibilities of getting desire fulfilled, broadly classified into those desires which are fulfilled through knowledge plus action. This is called the achievement of something not yet achieved. If the achievement is not yet achieved and you want to achieve that, then you need to know about it, plus you need to work on that. Action. Apraptasya praptihi. The achievement of something not yet achieved is achieved karmana, by action. And there is another kind of achievement called the achievement of something already achieved. Now, if it is already achieved, why should we achieve it? The very fact that he wants to achieve it, which is already achieved, it means that he is not aware of that. He is not aware of that achievement. The self is ever present with us. He has never been away from us. In fact, we are our own self, but we don't know. And if the spiritual seeker aspires for that, it is an achievement of something already achieved. The self is already with him. It has never been away from him. And he wants to achieve the selfhood or the self-realization. So in that case, it only suggests that he is not aware that he is already the self. So when one is not aware about, then that achievement is something, and we have discussed these portions elsewhere also. It is something like a man who has a key in his own pocket and is searching everywhere. In our vernacular, there is a saying, Kaket Kalsa Gavala Valsa. So this happens sometimes. Those who are wearing specs, the eyes become so set to that glass or power of vision that you are not aware that you are wearing specs, and you may wash your face with specs. So this is a sense of identity or attunement by which you become one with it. Now, here the case is achievement of something already achieved means he has never lost the key. Only he has forgotten that he has kept it in his own pocket. Because of this, he forgets, he takes everybody to the task. He has to leave for the office, he is getting late and he is not able to get the keys. So then, if somebody suggests him, Papa, can you check your pocket? Maybe it is there. Now, how the child became wiser than him? Actually, earlier day, he had just tried out his pockets for few coins because he heard some noise of that. It was actually keys, a bunch of keys. But he heard some noise and he felt there may be some coins and he put his hand for getting those coins. And he came across the bunch of keys. So he knew it. Well, how to say that it is in your pocket? Then he will ask, how do you know? So with all that, but seeing the panic with which the dad is now searching frantically for the keys, then he says, Papa, maybe in your pocket, have you checked that? And he is so desperate, whatever suggestion comes, he wants to try out because he wants the keys. And he tries out his pockets and lo, the key is in his own pocket. Now, when he says he has lost the keys, has he ever lost the keys? They were well in his own pocket. But because he was not aware of the fact, he kept searching. The achievement of the self-realization, or whatever are the terms related to the self, is belonging to this type of achievement. Achievement of something already achieved. The self is all the time with us. It was never away from us, but we were not aware of that. And we kept on searching, first outside, then within, and then we found that we are our own self. So likewise, these two types of achievement, the second type of achievement of something already achieved is achieved by only knowledge. It does not require any action. Yeah, just to realize that, oh, the key is already there. So these are the two types of achievement. The praptasya praptihi jnanena, apraptasya praptihi karmana. There are definite means for achieving a given achievement, and if you want to achieve something which is not yet achieved, then it can be achieved by not just the knowledge. In addition that you must know about it, you also must perform certain actions for gaining that. The other type does not require any action. It's only to become aware of that. We must become awareful of our true being, and for that our present attention is elsewhere. So we have to withdraw from that and redirect our attention towards our own self. This is a spiritual practice through which we can do so. Here, therefore, the yam lokam, when it is said, the field of experience that one wants to go through, wants to have the experience, even for the one who has reached the goal, in case that there are some desires left out in the mind which are never attended, can be attended by him by just wishing for it. The tool is so powerful, it will accomplish in no time. It will just happen. Now, since he does not want it, therefore others, if they want it, then definitely they need to honor that person. And there are various traditional means of honoring that man of realization, worshipping him, washing his feet, worshipping his feet, and there are other prostrating before him. So all these are the ideas suggested traditionally. Swamiji has discouraged that because that is okay, provided the other background is with you and you are not stuck to that alone. But with this, you are proceeding to what the teacher has taught you. To realize that. So here, that is given secondary importance. It is not referred. In fact, Swamiji has described what happens, all this treatment is he has to go through daily with so many devotees, and how it is a nuisance for him. He has described it in the last paragraph. But before that, this achievement we are talking about, and it is referred in the mantra as the bhuti kamaha, one who is desirous of bhuti. Now the word bhuti means vibhuti. Vibhuti means glory. It is the glory of the Lord. Vibhuti. So one who is desirous of the glory, and it is generally translated as prosperity. When we think of prosperity, the term has come to mean now, prosperity means lot of money and a life of comfort and luxury, and you have nothing short of any material wants. So all this is considered as prosperity. It is not really so. It is only a part of that. Prosperity, material prosperity only is a part of our glory, and there is another prosperity also. But all the time we have to always consider the place and condition in which Swamiji has given discourses. These are the discourses of Gita Jnana Yajna, where he has addressed to some thousands of listeners. So to him, he cannot go in much details, though he mentions certain indicative terms for the students to go in the depth. But otherwise, it is translated as only prosperity. But Bhuti stands for Vibhuti, and Vibhuti means the glory. We have 10th chapter of Lord's glories in the Bhagavad Gita, Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamodhyaya. So this chapter talks about the glories of the Lord, and there are really countless glories, and Lord tries to tell us in short through Arjuna his glories, only essential important terms that he thinks he should talk about. So this vibhuti we need to think about, what is that glory, etc. Now in the second paragraph, we have seen the concentration and integration are the two important valuable words, and I believe we have completed that. Here the main statement was concluding, thus in a welter of self-cancelling thoughts, we remain the impotent worms that we are, without a strong will or power of suggestion or capacity to plan, to act, and to achieve. Here in the Shruti, we have the secret initiating us into an era of irresistible success. So this is now coming slowly to the very point that contributes to the success. The power of suggestion is otherwise called as auto-suggestion. In some of the meditation techniques, we are suggested some auto-suggestions which has some impact or effect on our mind. So that is one of the techniques. Without strong will or a power of suggestion or capacity to plan, to act, and to achieve. So this is the most important point: to plan, to act, and to achieve. So planning is of actions as well as the desirable results, how we will go get it, and what is the procedures involved, how we have to proceed about that. Now this is a very, very important word. We can say Swamiji's key word: plan, act, and achieve. These are the three important words. When in somewhere in 1978 in Thane, for the first time, the members of my study group and Balvihar organized the first Gita Jnana Yajna for Swami Purushottamananda. At that time, Swamiji appreciated our sense of organization and the publicity, etc. The crowd that gathered, because it's for the first time introduced in Thane, and he was happy about it. So he suggested us to have independent center. Till then, I was conducting it on behalf of Bombay Center as a representative of this area from Mulund to Ambernath. So I had started this activity in this Thane, and I just suggested members to come together and we will organize the Gita talks of Swamiji. So that was first performance. Then Swamiji recommended it to Mukhya Swami, Swami Chinmayananda, about this center. Then they agreed. And then the CCMT told me that we don't know anybody else than you. You have been working for last 7-8 years in Thane. So whatever you recommend, the committee will approve that. And that all those procedures are gone through. Then when Swamiji Chinmayananda was in Bombay for some treatment, etc., we met him there. We went there to meet him. I was the founder vice president, Prachar, and there was one more president, Mr. Vijay Bellare, and both of us and one or two more, we went there to meet Swamiji. And we wanted Swamiji to give us the message for the new center. And he was busy inside. When then the Ram Batra, the then president of Bombay Committee, Ram Batra Bandbox, he asked us, what are we waiting for? He said, we want to meet Swamiji and we want to have his message for our new center. So immediately he took us inside the room and he introduced us to Swamiji. And then Swamiji immediately, we have taken our message book with us. So Swamiji on that wrote, organize, plan, and serve the society. This was his message. Organize, plan, and serve the society. So these are the very valuable words, organize and plan. And what we see, act to achieve. So before we act, our all activities must be planned and organized. This was a very important message, and that really is still ringing the truth of that statement repeatedly. Here I am reminded of that when he says that in the concluding statement of second paragraph, that here it is said, or a power of suggestion or capacity to plan, to act, and to achieve. Here in the Shruti we have the secret of initiating us into an era of irresistible success. When you say irresistible success, so in our unfoldment we have seen the beginning itself is that it is the privilege of man to achieve greatness. Success should have been his habit. You see the statements with which Swamiji is attracting the youth. A privilege of man to achieve greatness, and success should have been his habit. Now, the fact is that behind every successful man, there are millions who are struggling for that, failures. And the reason for that is because of their disorganized within. In their inner world of thoughts and feelings, they are disorganized. Therefore, they are failing. So, to reorganize our within, to rehabilitate our within in terms of our feelings and thoughts is a secret of success immediately. And the details are given out in the third paragraph. So again there, the achievement is again due to the important statement in that third para, The first statement is the starting only. Sadhana or spiritual training develops in a sadhaka a mental capacity to think or to wish, to feel or to determine, to reject or to desire one solitary idea to the total and complete exclusion of all other dissimilar or even complementary thoughts. This is Swamiji has been called by many in his own generation that he is next to Swami Vivekananda. We actually, as I study, I find that there are very many statements which are restated, represented, little with a different fashion. The same statement with same content is putting it. Swami Vivekananda says, you take one idea and go up to the depth of it. You reject all the dissimilar ideas or even similar ideas, you reject. Here it is the similar wording, you see. So either the dissimilar or even the similar ideas also you reject and take only one idea and put all your capacity to think on that, concentrate on that, and that particular idea is capable of revealing you the truth behind that. So this is the achievement, and the success of your achievement depends upon a total integrated, concentrated mind directed on single idea. So your sankalpa should be that strong, like Brahmaji's sankalpa, so strong, aeons together the world is going on. It was his sankalpa. And our sankalpas are so weak and so flimsy that once we make a sankalpa, 100 other counter sankalpas will come. They are called as vikalpas. So sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. This is the definition of mind. So there the mind gathers various sankalpas, but at the simultaneously, immediately the next thought comes is exactly opposite. And that is a crisscrossing, and finally you are left impotent. That is what he describes here. We remain the impotent worms that we are without a strong will or power of suggestion or capacity to plan and act. Why? Because any good thought comes, immediately it will be followed by the opposite thought, and the good thought will get cancelled. So likewise, it is our inability to concentrate on a given sankalpa and pursue it till it is fulfilled, that is lacking in us. Whereas in a man of self-perfection, he has pursued one single thought of the self till the end, and that is also at the exclusion of all other dissimilar thoughts. If you remember in our recent discussions, we have recalled the definitions by Swamiji of meditation. It is a discipline on thinking or meditating on one thought at the exclusion of all the dissimilar thoughts. That is meditation. And this kind of concentrated, integrated meditation leads to an achievement. And that achievement, whatever it can be, see, you will appreciate the kind of progress and achievement made by our rishis in the field of physical sciences like mathematics, astrology, astronomy, algebra, etc. They are fantastic. And particularly regarding astronomy, astrology, etc., when they did not have the instrument that we have today, and still if they could accomplish, it was only a technique of meditation, and through meditation, they applied a single pointed mind only for the discovery of that they have in mind. So they could discover whatever are the details of those planets, etc., they had formed a science, structured a complete science of astronomy, astrology, and this is possible only because of their power of their mind. And this power of the mind is maximum when rational as well as emotional aspects are integrated. First thing, our rational, intellectual, and emotional, mental aspects are integrated, and plus the mind develops a sense of concentration, single pointedness. Because all aspirations, ambitions, desires, etc., they all belong to mind. They crowd in the mind, and mind wants so many things. But when it wants only a given thing at the exclusion of anything else, then it is a single pointed application, and that causes the success. So this is a secret of success. When the mind is human mind, we have seen with two aspects. When human mind is integrated and concentrated, it is an effective tool for achievement or success. This was the import of the third paragraph, second and third paragraph. In the third paragraph, uh, the same thing is highlighted further. So the statement that we were discussing in the third chapter, third para, is the first statement that it is idea to the total and complete exclusion of all other dissimilar or even complementary ideas. The ideas that are in the category of the idea you have chosen, even those ideas are to be excluded. Only the chosen idea is to be taken up. So Vivekananda emphasizes this point with the idea about those shells. There are pearl making shells who come to the surface of the ocean with the open condition, keep themselves afloat and wait for the rains of Swati Nakshatra constellation. So of Swati, the rains that fall from due to Swati Nakshatra, when even a single drop, when received by the shell, immediately it closes and goes to the bottom of the ocean. This is the story usually we have in our country. And then he at the bottom of the ocean, he keeps on making out of that drop of water a pearl. And this is what he says, this is what a spiritual seeker should do. You may in the beginning listen to masters, different masters, you read different books. Finally, what appeals to you is most important. And that which appeals to you, finally, you take up that. And thereafter, give up everything, not only dissimilar, but even complementary to what you are needing. No need of any complementary ideas. Only one single chosen idea, and think of that. All the time, think of that. You have to keep yourself away and all the time concentrate on that. And you will find that the thought has capacity to reveal the truth behind the thought. So this idea is Swamiji has suggested. There are very many ideas which Swami Vivekananda had just planned to perform but could not do so because of his health condition and short life lived. And all those programs Swamiji has executed in this, like Brahmachari training programs, like writing books on Ramayana and Mahabharata for children, making a book available for children. These are all Vivekananda's ideas, and Swamiji has simply executed all those ideas in toto. We wonder, so just after 50 years, another Mahatma has come on the horizon and he has completed that task. Likewise, here we find the similar statement that Swami Vivekananda has made, and he gives that example of the shell, the pearl-making shell, which receives only one drop, thereafterwards closes itself and goes down to the bottom of the ocean, and there it spends the entire time in making it a pearl. Similarly, a seeker, a spiritual seeker, has to take up one idea. It is not required to go through so many Upanishads daily, read, understand, etc. Once you get the feel of the portion or the contents of the portion of Upanishads or any scripture, then study that repeatedly, and then you will come across the idea that appeals to you the most, that you take it to your heart. And that is the idea for you. Then withdraw from all the rest and concentrate on that. This is the idea suggested for the secret of success. Usually, our frail mind is really not capable of having any results. If the results come, a contrary thought will come and cancel it. So that is the only difference between a man of realization and ordinary person who does not have what you can say, a mind that can sustain any given resolve. So this difference is being highlighted. So those who have not yet reached that status of the man of realization and who want prosperity, glory, they should serve this master, they should honor this master. That is the suggestion of this. So we are proceeding now to the next para. In this para, they organize and plan to act, etc. We have seen, and M phenomena. Here, yes, in the third paragraph, there is another mention. The devotees would call this, what is that? Thus, a man who was ordinarily ineffectual and helpless comes to rise above the circumstances of his life and even rule over them when he develops in yoga. The devotees would call this mental capacity as Ishvara Kripa, while the Vedantins would call it as Atma Shakti or Atma Kripa, the same term, self-effort. And yogis would name it as a glory of the Kundalini. In fact, all of them are talking of one and the same phenomenon. When an individual gets more and more integrated in his physical, mental, and intellectual personalities, more and more he becomes a power to be reckoned with, a potency most irresistible. So this is the important contents of this. Vedanta, according to Vedanta, it is the self-effort. That is the first thing to be taken care of by the spiritual seeker. If he wants to achieve something, it begins with self-effort, Atma Kripa. And this also portion we have discussed earlier. Mahatmas are talking about 4 different kripas, the graces that a spiritual seeker needs in order to reach his goal. So those 4 kripas are Atma Kripa, Isha Kripa, Guru Kripa, and Shastra Kripa. The grace of the self is called Atma Kripa. God helps those who help themselves. So all those kripas are available to you, but only when you initiate the action. You undertake the self-effort. So in Swamiji's words, he says, God has his own way of communication. He says, you first apply, then I will reply. This is the idea. You first undertake the effort, and he will give you the results of action. Whether your effort, according to your efforts, your intentions, your attitude, accordingly, taking into consideration all these points, an appropriate result will be doled out to you for your effort. So, if you don't do anything, then all those three krupas become dumb. They can't do anything for you. Therefore, Atma Kripa, the self-effort comes first. And then it is followed by Isha Kripa, Guru Kripa, Shastra Kripa, etc. So all these graces will follow only those seekers who undertake selfless, the self-effort. And those self-efforts should be appropriate and adequate. There is no compromise in it. It requires a full quota of your efforts. You can't go halfway and expect the results. So adequate means enough efforts, not half efforts, and appropriate in a sense in a right direction. And we have seen a destination, like say from here Pune, it's say 150 kilometers, Pune, from Thane to Pune, 150 kilometers, let us say, and you want to reach there. It is not enough that you travel 150 kilometers in any direction. You will not reach the destination. Also, it is not enough that in a right direction you travel only 100 kilometers. It is not enough. So in a right direction and adequate travel will help you reach the destination. Therefore, adequate and appropriate self-efforts is the first thing without which no other grace will move. Only your efforts can make them move. The next one is the Isha Krupa, etc., which is not our topic at present. But this self-effort is here, is indicated by the word Atma Shakti. We have the power of the self, and we can exercise that power for achieving whatever we want. So it begins with Atma Krupa or self-effort. So that is why Swamiji says, you only apply, then I will reply. So you first undertake efforts, then I will give you the results of that. So this the third paragraph is covered. And the fourth paragraph is dealing with a full-grown jnani. The first statement important. The fourth paragraph is packed with important statements. The first statement being the starting one, the supreme perfection in personality is reached only by a full-grown jnani. Full-grown jnani. Full-grown is one word. Full-grown jnani. So jnani is not enough. He must be full-grown as well. This is important. Jnani is the man of knowledge and is free from the ignorance related to that subject. One who knows this subject, here particularly the subject knowledge of the self, he knows the knowledge of the self without any doubt, without any confusion, without any perversion, ulta understanding. Without this, when he understands clearly the vision of the scriptures, he becomes jnani. This knowledge, jnani, the knowledgeable person, must be full-grown person. So this knowledge, though perfect, free from doubts, etc., still it is not enough. He needs a full grown. Full grown means who has developed his mental and intellectual personality as integrated, concentrated, and applied for the experience of what he knows. What we know intellectually can be experienced only by the medium of mind. So it is mind which gives us the experience of what we intellectually know. So one who intellectually know, it is called the two types of vidya. It is called apara vidya, intellectual knowledge. And it has to be supported by intuitional knowledge, which is called paravidya. The intuitional knowledge is possible only when you train your subtle body in its rational as well as psychological or the emotional aspects. By integration and concentration, you make the tool qualified to undertake the achievement, and with this tool, you get the self-experience, self-knowledge and self-experience. So the jnani should be full grown in a sense at his emotional and intellectual level. He must have fully developed these personalities for the optimum use of them in spiritual practice. So they will help him to experience what he has known. So this term is very important, the full grown jnani. Why this full grown is required to be added as an adjective to jnani? Or jnani should have been sufficient? No. So intellectual knowledge has to be supported by, to be coupled with intuitional knowledge, and then the jnani or the man of knowledge is called the man of wisdom. So this is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. The knowledge said that Brahman is the ultimate truth. The wisdom says, Aham Brahma, I am that Brahman. This is the difference. So Aham Brahma is a self-experience, whereas the ultimate truth is Brahman, the one without a second, the absolute existence. This is all an intellectual perception, well built through proper logic, reasoning, study of the scriptures, listening to the master, and reflecting upon that. He has owned up that information as his own knowledge. Information is not knowledge, but information, when it is further digested through reflection and assimilated, it becomes a part and parcel of our being, then it is called knowledge. So the knowledge, what he has understood, reflects in his attitude, in his performance. But this is all the results of knowledge. A full-grown jnani only will have this intuitional experience, and therefore this term is very important, full-grown jnani. And hence the Shruti advises that those who are desirous of worldly gains and material successes should revere and respect, adore and worship a seer of knowledge. Seer is in italics. Seer of knowledge. Here the term is clear. What we saw as fully grown jnani is the last one as the seer. The term that is used here is, just now we have seen, seer of knowledge. Seer is drashta of knowledge, jnana drishti. The vision of reality has to be realized. It is not enough that he has the knowledge, but this knowledge has to be realized. As you say, when you receive a check, you acknowledge it subject to realization of the check. Now the value on the written on the check is real, all right, but let the real be realized and credited to my account. Then I will call it. Similarly, the real is known by the jnani, but the known has to be realized in his own life that I am that ultimate truth. Aham Brahmasmi is is called the experience, the self-experience, the experience about the truth as my own self. So that is the difference between the the jnani and the seer. Here the word seer is drashta. Drashta is one who sees. And when you say you see, many times we say, oh, I see. So I see means I understand. I see means I realize. So only before that, you may say, oh, it's not clear. Please throw me some light. And through discussion, they say, oh, I see. So when you say that, it means, oh, now I understand. So this seeing is understanding and seeing is becoming. So the one who sees, jnani plus a seer. Our rishis are all seers of the truth. They are not just the jnanis. They have the seer means themselves realize that truth in their own life and they become that reality. So this is the difference. In the beginning, it is suggested as a full-grown jnani, and in the next sentence, it is considered as is a seer of knowledge, one who sees, one who realizes that knowledge is called the seer of the knowledge. This is an important point in the first two statements. Both the statements are important. The third statement we have important, the same paragraph is a little ahead. In fact, a master's life is only to live the blessedness of one in all and the all in one. This is a very important statement. The master's life is only to live the blessedness of this. So to live, when it is said, that is called seer of the jnana. That is called fully grown to realize that. So when we want to realize or experience, the only tool is mind, our inner equipment, the subtle body. And when this subtle body is tuned to the extreme purity, Vishuddha Sattva, when it becomes supremely sattvic, then that tool becomes effective in realizing the knowledge. To know the knowledge is one thing, to realize the knowledge is to imbibe that knowledge, to percolate that knowledge from head to the heart and from heart through the hands in our very performance. So the performance should tell us the quality of the performer by the quality of activity that is turned out in his performance. We come to know the capacity of the person. Similarly, if the Brahman is the only reality, and if I am Brahman, there is nothing else than Brahman, and if there is a multiplicity and multitudinous ramifications in the surrounding, they are nothing but myself alone extended everywhere. So when this kind of living in love happens, then we can say that the jnani has become a seer. So he has imbibed that knowledge in himself. So this aspect is cleared in this. Now in this statement, important statement is one in all and all in one. One in all is multiplicity of names and forms, the variety and multiplicity of names and forms. It is not only the one particular form and it's like a mass production multiplicity, variety. Each form is unique in its own nature. It is not a carbon copy or a Xerox copy of anybody else. Each individual is a unique person. So therefore it is a variety and multiplicity. And in this creation is all, there is one principal reality which is pervading in and through all. So that is called one in the many. So this is the term wording used here is the one in all. One in all is pure consciousness, which is pervading in and through all the forms. It also reflects in the living being, in the subtle body of all living beings. So it illumines the forms, only forms, inert, insentient form, and it reflects in the living being. It reflects in the subtle body of the living being. So this aspect, that there is one in all, which is a common denominator for all of them. It is present everywhere. This is one aspect. Now, since it is present everywhere and in all things and beings, then the next statement is that all in one. Then that which is present in all is also present in one. It follows. So when one expresses its heart's contents, then it is as though the entire humanity is expressing through him. It is all in one. Now, why I'm saying this? Because it has got a relevance of the last statement, that that statement is Tasmat Atmadnyam Bhuti Kamaha Atmadnyam Yarchayet Archayet. Therefore, the one who is desirous of glory should honor the person. Why? Because that person sees the one reality pervading in and through all things and beings in the world. And therefore, if anyone approaches, for him, he does not take it exclusively as independent or separate individual. He does not see any difference. For him, all are same. So there is no partiality that he has a special grace for one disciple. The what you can say, the inner circle of disciple, the outer circle of disciple, all that, nothing of that kind. There is no in prime disciples and the secondary and all this kind of ideas do not exist for that man of perfection. For him, all are same, because in all of them it is the same. What is that same? That same is pure consciousness, which is pervading in and through all the things and beings. Things inert and insentient, beings the living things. So here, all in one is all the aspirations of the multitudes are also reflected in one when he expresses his aspiration. This is another aspect of it. So one in all is relatively easy to understand, that there is one common principle which pervades all, but many in one is a bit difficult. It is the later part of it. So first, to appreciate by analysis that it is the consciousness present everywhere, within and without, and it is the process of synthesis that he takes everyone, in everyone, they all is centered or gathered. And so talking to one is talking to all. For him, it makes no difference as a given individual and the rest individual. For him, all are same. So to meet any one, he is meeting only the one in many. Even when he is meeting one individual, he is meeting there also the one which is present in many. So many in one and one in many is a bit a critical expression of reality as experienced by our teacher. So this is a beautiful expression. It is not the play of words. It has a content, and therefore now this is this taking this as the important statement. The last one is the fourth paragraph is almost over, and the last paragraph is balance. Now we'll see that uh, our last paragraph, live in continuous, is an advice for the listener, reader, or spiritual seeker. Live in continuous and unbroken God remembrance and intelligent detachment. Very keywords. We'll stop here. We'll take up only this statement and see whatever best we can do about this. Live in continuous and unbroken God remembrance and intelligent detachment. A very potential statement. In fact, all teachers' statements are full with potentialities, left to the seeker to unravel the mysteries in that and benefit. To the extent we are prepared to reflect to the deeper levels. Now we know, just now we have seen that this world is constituted of things and beings, right? The world is constituted of things and beings. Things means those which are inert and insentient and non-living. Beings are those which are sentient, dynamic, active, and beings. So the things and beings constitute this world. Now, think for a moment. Is your body not the part of this world? Your physical body? Though by mistake you have a very strong notion that I am the body, but the fact is you are one of the forms in this entire universe. The universe is full of things and beings. You are a being. And like all other beings, this physical being also is a part of the world, universe, right? And this should give us the understanding that this is Ishvara. This body is Ishvara, the part and parcel of Ishvara. Because the whole Ishvara, the Lord, is now in the form of the world of names and forms. The God has become the names and forms and is now available as the world before us. Now our body is not our body, it is in fact the part and parcel of Ishvara. See what a great difference it will make if you understand this. Therefore, looking at the body, you should remember the Lord. At this moment, looking at the body, I said, I am handsome, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am active, and whatnot. But just this body belongs to the world. World is an expression and manifestation of the Lord in the form of different living and non-living. Okay. Our body is a living form of the Lord. Therefore, this body is Lord. Let us understand this. If we understand this, then looking at the body, we should remember the God. The God is with me through this physical body. Here, it's a God remembrance is not only chanting the name of the Lord, Here, whenever I'm conscious of the body, see what Hanuman says? Deha drushtya tu dasoham. Whenever I am having a body consciousness, I am just your slave. See, I am the body is the concept. To remove this I am the body concept, I am your slave. Because to serve you is only my job whenever I am body conscious. Deha drushtya tu dasoham. Therefore, my attitude is to serve the world whenever I am body conscious. This body is meant for the service of others, not for myself. And the others will serve you incidentally. But that don't expect that. But at this moment, paropakaraya idam shariram, is the Subhashitam also says. As we see, the tree do not eat their own fruits, the rivers do not drink their own waters. Similarly, all these good people are always meant for others in other services. So this idea here we can adopt till I am the body sense goes, I have to remain as sevak of the Swami. My sevak, tum Swami, kripa karo bharata, jai jagadish hare. This attitude. But the fact is that this body is Ishvara. So the best progress of the seeker is whenever he becomes body conscious, the Lord is with him. It is the Lord's part and parcel of the world. And if this idea is appreciated, then we can say that continuous and unbroken God remembrance, because I am continuously conscious of my body, except in deep sleep. Now, deep sleep is actually indicative of my true selfhood. I am without body. Are we conscious of the body? Not at all. Neither body nor mind. We are not conscious in the deep sleep state, and that is our true nature. I am pure consciousness without body mind. This is the truth of my being. But the moment I wake up, the Maya has played the trick and made me uh, come down to the level of body mind and identify with that and say, I'm the body, I'm the mind. Now, if we want to have the highest achievement, we need to practice this. First idea is the God remembrance, and the second is intelligent detachment. This will help us detach from the body. And when you say body, we know it is gross body plus subtle body. The gross body is otherwise called as belonging to Virat. The subtle body belongs to Hiranyagarbha. Our subtle body is a part and parcel of Hiranyagarbha, the total mind. And our gross body belongs to Virat, which is a total physical body. All sum total of all physical bodies put together is called as Virat. So Virata Purusha is constituted of all physical bodies put together. So I am a part and parcel of Virata when I am conscious of the body. And I am a part and parcel of Hiranyagarbha, the total mind, when I am conscious of mind. Therefore, body and mind, when I am thinking of, I must remember the Lord. The Lord is present in me in the form of body and mind. This is a great realization, and this is called otherwise remembrance of the God, continuous remembrance and detachment. This will help us detach from our body and mind. When you say it belongs to Lord, there is a question of owning it. When I don't own it, there is no sense of attachment possible. When I say my son, my wife, it implies the sense of attachment as well. But when I say my body and my mind, it will not have an attachment. It is a gift given to me by the Lord. It is the part and parcel of the Lord. Therefore, this remembrance of the God and the detachment, the both will come with a great realization that this body is belonging to the Lord. It is a part and parcel of the Lord. So whether you call it Virata or the God, whatever you call it, it is not mine. It belongs to the God. Then there is really a great fun in realizing the real. The efforts do not become a steep or stern effort, then it becomes a little comfortable journey because we are relieved from this body and mind. They are the gifts from the God, so we can make use of them. He has not said that it is mine and you won't touch it. He is given to you. The body is meant, coupled with the power to act, body can undertake great activities. Similarly, with the mind, mind can have great aspirations and ambitions in life and fulfill them. The Lord is giving us the facility to make use of His body and mind. But if you take it as my body, my mind, etc., then you are sunk in the mire of attachment, and thereafterwards it is very difficult to come out. So this, to save ourselves from the ills of or evils of attachment, this awareness that my body is a part of the total bodies which belongs to the Lord, and my mind is the part of the total mind, it will have a great transformation in my understanding and my attitude, and it will help me remember the Lord. Lord is right here with us. We don't have to go anywhere. It is His creation. So this God remembrance and detachment can become the easier exercise when we appreciate this understanding. With this, today we stop. We may continue this discussion a little more next time. If there are any questions, please raise your hand. I'm not trying to encourage you for questioning, but in Vedanta, questions are never encouraged and never discouraged as well. So I don't want to discourage you also if you have something bubbling up in your mind about your question.
सर एक प्रश्न आहे माझा.
Yes, without that it is not complete. Or satsang is not complete.
तर जेव्हा आपण संतांचा आदर सत्कार करतो आपल्या घरी आल्यानंतर, ते आपल्याला आशीर्वाद देतात, म्हणजे कोणाला मूल देतात, कोणाचा रोग दूर करतात किंवा आणखी प्रॉस्परिटी वगैरे देतात. तर त्यांना हे विदाउट एफर्ट ते करू शकतात आपल्यावर कृपा. तर याच्याबद्दल जरा सांगा ना.
नाही, ते आता काय मोहिनीने मध्ये गोंदवलेकर महाराजांचा कोट दिला होता, त्यात हे सगळं जसंच्या तसं आलेलं आहे. तुमचा प्रश्नाला संपूर्ण उत्तर आहे आपल्या ग्रुपमध्ये बघा. याच्यामध्ये गोंदवलेकर महाराज थोडे निराश झालेले आहेत की लोक माझ्याकडे मी जे द्यायला आहे ते मागतच नाहीत, आणि ते म्हणतात मला मुलगा द्या, मला पैसे द्या, मला बढती द्या नोकरीमध्ये, हे मागायला येतात. आता मी त्यांना देतो काहीतरी, पण हे कसं आहे, कडू औषधाबरोबर गुळाचा खडा दिल्यासारखं आहे. मग ते मी जे द्यायला तयार आहे ते मागतच नाहीयेत, आणि ते जे अपेक्षित आहे ते याच्यावर अजून चर्चा बाकी आहे. अजून आपला तो विषय झालेला नाही, आपण शेवटच्या परिच्छेदामध्ये आहोत. हा शेवटचा आणि शेवटून दुसरा, हे 2 परिच्छेद त्याच्याविषयी आपल्याला सांगतात. आपण आता एक क्विक स्वीप म्हणतात तसं पटकन एक त्याचं सिंहावलोकन केलं आणि शेवटच्या परिच्छेदापर्यंत आलं. आता थोडं मधून जे गळलेल्या जागा भरायच्या असतात ते आपल्याला पुढच्या वेळेला तपशिलात बघावे लागतील. पण अन्यथा तुम्ही त्याचा परत एकदा त्या गोंदवलेकर महाराजांचा जो उद्धृत आहे त्याचा परत एकदा नीट वाचा, तुम्हाला तुमच्या या सर्व प्रश्नाचं उत्तर मिळेल कम्प्लीट. आज आपण इथेच थांबूया. यस्य प्रसादादहमेव विष्णुः मय्येव सर्वं परिकल्पितं च इत्थं विजानामि सदात्मरूपं तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यं. तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यं. ओम शिवाय सद्गुरवे नमः.
हरि
हरि
ओम.
ओम. हरि ओम सर.
हरि ओम.
हरि ओम सर.
मला
हरि